This is Jon Drago, and you're listening to Fairways and Friends.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Fairways and Friends. And I just want to give a few shout outs. We are so grateful for the support we've been getting on social media and text messages. Continue, if you would, sign up on the website with your email. We'll be sending out a newsletter soon and some opportunities for you to be interactive with the podcast. We'll submit some questions that you'll send in. And if we use your question, we've got some goodies from our friends at Titleist. And I also want to just share my gratitude about our camera director and editor, Sammy Esquivel. We call him Sammy E, as in Sammy Excellent. And he's really helping us have a quality podcast. And I'm thrilled this week we have another strong guest, Jon Drago, tournament director for the Byron Nelson tournament, the CJ Cup. And he's going to unpack his journey of golf, and it's going to be fantastic. You know, he's more than a tournament director. He is a steward, and we're grateful to have him, and you're going to enjoy it.
Welcome, Jon Drago, to Fairways and Friends, and I appreciate your time and your consideration for coming over to see us here in Fort Worth.
Thanks for having me. I wouldn't miss it.
John, everybody in North Texas and beyond know that you are the man behind the Byron Nelson tournament. And before the tournament, before press conferences and sponsors and tour players and hospitality tents, let's go back from the beginning, before all of that. And how did golf find Jon Drago?
That's a great question. So golf found me the way I think it typically finds a lot of kids. My dad played golf. My dad was he was a very respected person in Fort Worth. He was a district judge in Fort Worth, and his outlet was golf. He loved nothing better than being with his friends, being away from the pressures of the bench, and hanging with his friends and playing golf. And he was also extremely devoted to all of us. He went to every sporting event and so forth. And one day he asked if we wanted to go play golf. I think I was 7 or 8 years old, and went to play golf with him, and that turned into kind of a Sunday afternoon ritual for us. I got the golf bug in a really bad way when I was a junior. We played a lot of golf. Was fortunate enough to grow up playing Colonial Country Club just down the street from here.
Yes.
Learned from the great Roland Harper, and from there it's kind of always been a part of my life. I never dreamed that it would become a career, but as I'm sure we'll talk about, that's what it turned into.
That's fantastic. I remember Roland quite well, and I just love the history of Colonial. They've been like a sister club to me for many years, and their consideration. And in fact, my sophomore year at Abilene Christian, I got invited to go. I was working for Charles Cootie, and he left me tickets at Will Call. And I walked out there and I saw it. I saw Lee Trevino and Ben Crenshaw walking down one of the fairways, and I just stopped. Felt like I was struck by lightning, and I said, whatever I do is going to be something in golf. So,
that's great.
Do you remember your first set of irons or first few clubs, or what did your dad put together for you?
No, I know I had a mishmash of clubs, probably something that was handed down from my brother. I have an older brother who also played golf. One of kind of that typical younger brother, older brother relationship. I really looked up to what he did, and he always seemed to be a little bit better than me at all of those sports. Really drove me, but probably was a mix of that. But I can tell you, I can certainly remember the first set of Ben Hogan irons that I was given. The idea that I had committed enough to the game, I had earned my way to get a set of those Ben Hogan Apex irons, with the little red lines underneath them. I wish I still had them today, but I certainly remember those clubs.
I remember those clubs. I didn't know anything about club making, but here's what I did know. When we received shipments at Abilene Country Club with Steve Threlkeld, those clubs were completely different than anyone else's relative to the pin going through the hosel and the shaft.
Right.
The bore through all the way in the persimmon woods with the driver. They were significantly different, and again, I didn't know anything about them. I didn't know how good they were. I just knew they were really good.
Right.
And I remember those days. It was always cool when you saw a Ben Hogan box coming off a FedEx truck.
There you go.
In case I hit them up for a sponsorship.
That's
one
right.
of these days. So did you venture out of Colonial and play some of the city courses or any of the junior events or anything like that? Like who saw you early? Like we said Roland,
right?
But what did they try to get you to do early in the game? As far as what did they try to influence you with the journey of the golf?
Yeah, for me, golf was always fun. I was never a extreme competitor in golf. Junior golf when we were juniors, it was nothing like it was now.
Mm-hmm.
We did play around the community. We played. It was the old Fort Worth Star Telegram Junior
Mm-hmm.
Golf Tournament. We played the Texas-Oklahoma Junior Golf Tournament at Wichita Falls. So there was really only about 3 or 4, and the rest was just Dad dropping my brother and I off at the course on the way to work, and then we would play 18. We'd have a hamburger. We'd play another 18. He'd pick us up on the way home. It was mostly about fun for us. I was never, and still to this day, I'm not someone that can stand on the range and just beat balls and enjoy that and work on the technicalities of the swing. I've always kind of considered myself a field player. I just go out there, I kind of look at what I'm trying to do and try to hit the ball over there.
Yes.
Fought a mean slice for a long time, and now battle the duck hook, it feels like.
It's an evolution.
Exactly right. It has been. But I played a lot around the community. Played for Nolan High School.
Yeah.
So played competitively until then, and then when I got to college, I realized those guys were way, way better than I was, and I better study.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Was there a particular time in your early days or sometime in school that you identified like, hey, golf is going to be more than a recreation for me? Like, I'm going to pursue this. Was there an intersection or anything that happened that said, let me look at golf beyond recreation?
It didn't happen early for me, to be really honest. It was always a recreation for me. It was always something else. And I was also one of those kids that played every sport. We played basketball, we played baseball, and golf were my two sports that I played the most. But it was always a recreation. My first job in high school was working at Ridgely Country Club Keith Davidson in the cart barn.
I remember you talking about that one day. Yeah.
That's right. And just really met a lot of great characters there. Kind of watched what the folks in the pro shop did. I got a chance to caddy in a U.S. Open qualifier for Scott Robbins.
Nice.
So I kind of was around the game a lot, and then I went to college and I worked at the club doing the exact same thing in college at Barton Creek. And again, I was supposed to go to law school. My dad was a judge. My brother was going to law school. It was just kind of what I thought was supposed to do. And, golf, life, they throw you curveballs. And I was a senior in college. I was getting ready for the LSAT, and Keith Davidson called me because I had worked there not only through high school but also summers and college. And he said he had just lost his first assistant golf professional. Would I be interested in becoming a golf pro?
That's awesome.
That was my introduction to the golf business. And I said yes, and then I got up the guts to go tell my dad, and it was great. It was supposed to be kind of a one-year experiment to see if it was what I wanted to do, and here I am, more than 35 years later.
That is fantastic. I love that. I got to play with Keith Davidson one time with a couple of his members. Well, Don Jeter was a member at Ridgely. He's since passed. And a gentleman, Wayne Reed, left-handed player from Walnut Creek. And we'd played about 4 or 5 holes. And I'm a young assistant pro. I'm visiting from West Texas and kind of intimidated by all the nice, how nice the club and golf course is and these guys are. So Don Jeter, his member, missed a tee shot, and I didn't see that. I didn't see where it went. Like, was it a good shot? He goes, "Yeah, it was a good shot if you like it low left and 100 yards into the hazard back."
Right.
And I was shocked. I'm very literal, and I thought, wow, how do you talk to your members like that? And then I found out throughout the round that that's just Keith.
That's him.
And people are going to get a little bit of chin music.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he called you. You have an opening. You went and talked to your dad. How did the conversation go with your dad?
It actually went really well. He obviously was going to support me in whatever decisions I made. I think he also thought it was going to be kind of a experiment, and then we would talk about what I would do long term later on. We can talk about it as much as you want. I worked there for a couple of years, and then I went to chase a girl that had moved to Kansas and got an assistant pro job in Topeka, and then moved to Lawrence, and then that's when the PGA of America called. That kind of started.
Was that some of Tom Watson country up there somewhere? Right?
Yeah, actually, very, very much so. I worked at a small muni, which was great to go from kind of the country club my original job at the country club, and then to go to a true municipal golf course in Topeka, Kansas called Lake Shawnee Golf Course. Learned a lot about the difference and the different types of golf that's out there, the different opportunities that are out there. And then my wife, who was going to Kansas University at the time, getting her law degree, as it worked out.
All right.
Ended up getting the job at Lawrence Country Club, and moved there next.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, similar question relative to how golf found you. How did the Byron Nelson tournament find you, or how did you find the Byron Nelson tournament?
Yeah, so again, I grew up, as I said, going to Colonial. I went to those same golf tournaments you did. We used to sit on 18 when they were teeing off on 1, waiting all day long. And I had no idea that the job that I have today even existed. I didn't know how that all got put together. I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was fun. And I got some really great advice when I was debating whether or not I wanted to take Keith's offer. To be honest, I talked to a guy named Joe Beck, who was an assistant pro he was a teaching pro at Barton Creek at the time.
Oh, nice.
Went on to Austin Golf Club. And I just asked him, hey, look, you seem to have made a life out of this. You really enjoy it. You're really good at it. Any advice you'd give me as I'm thinking about this? And what he told me was you needed to find your niche in the game of golf. Like, there's a lot of people that get into it thinking they're just going to play all the time, or they just get into it because they like it and they don't treat it like a career. And they usually flush out. Normally, someone will hire them from the course, or they're good around people and they become salespeople, or whatever it might be. And so I spent that first couple of years trying to figure out what it was, and I realized I wasn't a great teacher. I wish today I could still give some refunds to some of those early lessons that I gave. I didn't really like sitting in the shop, to be honest. And so I said, it's tournaments for me. I want to be out. I want to be in the action. I want to put that together. I like the whole organization behind it, getting people to play. So I ran the tournaments at all the clubs that I worked, and I had a member at Ridgely Country Club named Scott Christensen, who was an airline pilot for American Airlines, and he was a USGA rules person, and he kind of took me under his wing.
Oh, wow. Good.
We went to the NCAA championships together. We went to USGA rules seminars together. I ended up passing the test, and that's when I knew I wanted to do something on that side of golf. And then, as well as I do, PGA's got this Career Links program.
Yes.
And because of that, I was working at Wichita Country Club at the time. We had moved to Wichita, and I got a call from a PGA Career Links hit asking about working for the tournament department at the PGA of America. And, to me, just thinking about the home office, that was bigger than anything for a 27-year-old kid at the time. And I told my wife, I said, let's go just see what it's like. I'll fly to Florida, get a free trip to Florida, have an interview, come home, and the next thing you know, we were packing up and moving to Florida.
Wow. How did she process all that?
Yeah, it was interesting. She, she was a fresh lawyer right out of law school. We were living in Wichita. She had a great job with Koch Industries at the time, and but she also knew that this was going to be my passion, and she wanted to support it. And I went down. I will say it took her 6 months to come down. She kind of stayed back just in case something went wrong, but she came down. She loved it. She ended up passing the Florida bar. We worked there for 7 years before moving back home.
I did not know that. I'm glad. I mean, it's another great reason. I'm glad you accepted the invitation, because I like learning just as much as our listeners do. Relative to the Byron Nelson tournament, your title is tournament director, but I've always viewed you as a steward of that tournament, partial steward of his name and legacy. Have you felt the same way? Have you felt that weight and the responsibility? There's
no doubt. I was fortunate enough that I've been there long enough that I was able to spend three tournaments, 2004, 5, and 6 with Mr. Nelson. So got to know him a little bit. And it's a responsibility that we take seriously, especially right now as things move so fast and things are getting so big, and he's been gone for so long now. It's been over 20 years now. Working to perpetuate kind of the whole point behind that tournament, and the way Mr. Nelson felt about the Salesmanship Club and the work that it does in the community, and all of that is something that we try to balance every day. We're lucky we have a title sponsor that really respects that loves the history of the game and really pays tribute to what he's done and brought to us, because none of us would be where we are right now without players like him, and it's something we take really, really seriously.
I think it's fantastic, and one of my first impressions of the results of the tournament, I loved working for a guy who was in the Salesmanship Club, Sam Swanson. His partners with DIY bringing. Sam Swanson always told me about the results.
Yep.
You know? Well, I remember when the Byron Nelson tournament hit the $100 million mark of giving money back to Dallas, right here in North Texas, to the children.
Right.
And then shortly after that, I read a stat, and I love the other sports. So I'm here. Right. I'm not here to knock any sports. I love the other sports. Love my grandkids and all the sports they're in. But it was a stat that talked about the PGA Tour, PGA of America as well, and the charitable results, and that golf had been giving more money to communities than the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball combined.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
That was sobering. I mean, I really had to think about that stat. And yet that $100 million mark was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. And what's interesting about that is you say that when you think about nonprofit organizations and raising money for charity, and we're coming into the fall, which is National Golf Charity Month, basically, yes. Right? I mean, just think about the first thing you think about when you want to raise money for something. A lot of times it'll trigger, we should have a golf tournament.
Yes.
And, the sales.
It's a great vehicle.
Yeah, it's a great vehicle. Our sport does it in so many different ways, from the PGA of America to just the local charity golf tournament that we're all playing for our churches and our causes and so forth. And that's what's funny is that's really how the Byron Nelson tournament started. The Salesmanship Club had been doing great work in the community forever, and they'd raise money in very traditional ways. They'd got into some Dallas Cowboys games. They'd had Golden Glove boxing matches. And somebody had the idea of having a golf tournament, and in typical Salesmanship Club fashion said, well, we ought to do a really big one. And somebody knew Mr. Nelson, and they approached him about putting his name to be a part of it. And in 1968, which was right when the PGA Tour was starting, coming off of the PGA of America, it just couldn't have been better timing, and it's blossomed since then. And I'll also tell you, you said you remember when we crossed the $100 million mark. I will tell you, you're going to remember when we crossed the next one, because we just announced last Wednesday that we've crossed the $200 million mark.
That is extraordinary.
This past tournament, yeah.
That's just hard to comprehend.
Yeah, it is. And what we like to talk about more than even the money, because even though that 59 years of the tournament, to raise $200 million for our local community is special to us, but it's really what we do with it. It's the kids and families that we serve. We have a saying that we want to help 1 million kids by the year 2031. Which we set back in 2021, and we're well on our way to do that there. So it's really our focus every day.
Well, that leads me to my next question that I was thinking about. Can you recall or share with us moments that you were right there and you saw somebody's life change because of the tournament, because of the generosity with the kids, or maybe young people that you hired as apprentices or worked at the tournament? Do you remember the first time you said, man, golf has really changed this person's life?
It happens so subtly typically that I can't tell you here's that moment. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you, and especially considering, our work is in mental health, so that's also one that's a little bit harder to see. But I can tell you, I've seen it. We have people who have gone through our Salesmanship Club school who now work for us. We have people who have interned with us that have gone on to great careers and so forth. We hear stories all the time where someone will call a Salesmanship Club member who is a reading buddy to them or was with them at camp or whatever it might be, and tell them how they changed their lives. Finding that specific moment's probably hard, but we do take a lot of pride in the fact in knowing that. Well, and our saying is that the CJ Cup Byron Nelson is more than a game, and that's what it is for us. We love the competition, we love the sport, we love the game, but at the end of the day, we're there to help people, and that's why we all come to work every day.
One of my friends from Abilene Christian, Rick, actually shared with me before he met Byron Nelson that he didn't want to meet Byron Nelson, and I said, "What are you talking about?"
Right.
He said, "Well, I've heard of stories that when people have heroes, that when they actually meet them, they're completely different. And Rick looked at me and he goes, and I was completely right about Byron Nelson. He was completely different. He was 10 times better
100%
than I thought he was going to be.
Yep.
And I'll never forget that. What are some things that you learned from Mr. Nelson?
Yeah, again, unfortunately, I only had such a short period of time with him, but it was just an authenticity. It was little things like looking you in the eye, and he had the biggest hands of anybody that I had ever met. And the way that he would shake your hand, and the way that he would spend time with you. And we always used to joke that if you ask Mr. Nelson how he's doing today when you saw him, you better be careful, because he's not going to say fine. You better be ready to sit there and listen to the answer, because he's going to tell you. And just, his openness, his generosity, he's willing to help others. And another thing that I found surprising to me, because I'd always heard these great stories about how nice he was and how generous he was, and what I think gets lost in that a little bit too is he was a tremendous competitor at the same time.
Very much so.
He didn't win 52 times for no reason at all, but he really proved that you can do both. You can be a fierce competitor, you can win, you can be the very best at what you do, you can focus on your life goal, you can retire at 36 years old and build a ranch because that's what you want to do, but you can also do it in the right way. That's probably what I learned the most.
He was very special, and the Golf Channel, I thought, did a wonderful job highlighting his legacy. And I didn't know, I was naive back in those days relative to many media outlets will have legacy pieces already kind of queued up.
Right.
And I was blown away by how quickly they had something out honoring him, the length of it, and how personal it was. And many media outlets don't always, they will omit sometimes a person's faith or influence. It was one of the best pieces I've ever seen, and I'll never forget it. I do remember a story by John Bradley when they were honoring Byron Nelson for the 75th PGA Championship at Riviera, and he had a friend who's a member, a gentleman who's a member at Los Angeles Country Club, and he said, "Byron, can you come out maybe a day early? I'd like to play golf with you." He said, "Sure." And he, in true PGA fashion, part of our code of ethics, he called the pro at Los Angeles Country Club and asked permission and his blessing to come out and play. He did the same thing with me.
Right.
I favorite memories of when an assistant pro came back to my office and he thought they had seen a ghost, and they couldn't even talk. They were like stuttering. Like, "Courtney, Mr. Byron Nelson's on line too. He's calling out. He wants permission to come out and play golf." And I said, "That's him." And then had to explain to the younger men and women of our staff that that's protocol.
Absolutely.
I'll never forget that.
That's great.
Let's get back from some of the tournament mechanics.
Right.
And I want to get back to maybe some behind the scenes stories, and I want to go there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fairways and Friends. And I just want to express my gratitude for the feedback that we've been receiving on social media and emails and text messages. Please, if you're enjoying the podcast, share it with your friends. Like us on the various social media platforms, and be sure and sign up on the website. We'll be starting a newsletter soon. It's going quite well, and we're very grateful for our guest. We're grateful for the support. Tell your friends about it. I hope to see you in the fairway real soon.
John, one more question relative to Mr. Nelson and the tournament, and then I want to move on to some other topics. By the way, I'm really enjoying this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, me too.
When you hear the name Byron Nelson, what does that mean to you personally? What do you reflect on?
Yeah, it means a lot. I'll start with that, and it does bring reflection. Again, having grown up in Fort Worth, we talked mostly about Ben Hogan when I was a kid.
Yes. Especially at Colonial.
Especially at Colonial. But you also knew about Mr. Nelson. When I was, and it's funny, inspiring will be the word that I will use, but it's funny how it's kind of sprinkled. When I was at Ridgewood Country Club working the Senior PGA Championship.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember the year. I think it was 2001 or 2. I think it was 2001. the stories of Mr. Nelson started coming out from when he was an assistant pro there. And one of my favorite stories that I asked him when I first met him, I said, "Can you tell me about the flagpole story?" And he said, "Well, I'll just tell you what you really want to know is it true?" And it was yes. And it was that he was, he had been working on the range all day and it was raining, and he was inside the clubhouse with a bunch of members, and some members just challenged him to see if he could hit the flagpole that's across the green from the clubhouse with, I don't even remember what the club was. And he said, "Sure, I could do that." And he tried twice and he missed twice, and then he remembered that he had been working on a 3-yard draw for the last 2 hours out on the range. So he decided he was going to hit a 3-yard draw, and ping, he hit the flagpole right away.
That's phenomenal.
He was a great storyteller like that, by the way, and just would sit at a table with you, and you always took something away with him. And then when I was applying for the job at the Salesmanship Club, I don't know if you know, but Mr. Nelson used to always come to the PGA Championship. He'd come to he would come to the Champions Dinner, and he would go to the Champions Clinic. And I was interviewing for the job here, and we were working the PGA Championship at Oak Hill, and I was actually coming Tuesday after the PGA Championship to interview. And on the range, I saw Mr. Nelson sitting there watching the Champions Clinic, and he had his Salesmanship Club of Dallas fedora on. So I knew something was going to happen, and I would end up working to help perpetuate his tournament. And I knew it was kind of a God thing, I think, that brought him there to me. And so I've kind of always had that kind of just feeling when I hear that name. I'd say he's always been a very inspiring figure to me, and I've always also felt a very big responsibility when I hear that name, because
what a
being at his
story.
tournament.
What a remarkable story, remarkable experience, and a remarkable shot.
And a great shot.
Okay, going to a PGA Tour event, moving to that subject.
Yep.
And golf fans see the hospitality tents, the players, the caddies, the practice facility. What do you think most fans don't understand or miss about some of the behind the responsibilities behind the scenes? What is something you wish maybe fans knew, one or two things about behind the scenes?
Yeah. First of all, there's a lot.
Uh-huh.
And I will say, usually I think the other way. I hope they don't see things, because I can tell you, after having done this for so long, there's so many things that we see
Yes.
that are such level of detail that are important to us that I think the majority of the fans that are out there don't see, which is what we're really hoping for. As long as we're the only ones that notice we miss something, that's usually a good thing. But what I would really love for them to appreciate is really just the amount that goes into it. I always say golf is the only professional sport that has to build and take down its stadiums every single year. And when you think about what goes into that,
So true.
we don't have a city that's going to build us a stadium, or we don't have bond dollars that we can get for that. So when you just think about kind of what goes into doing that every single year, and the planning, right now we're in the middle of August. Our tournament is in May, and we're in our budget season. We just finished taking down the tournament from last May. We just announced our results, and we're in the budget season now. Besides all of that coordination is just the sheer number of people. It's 1,300 volunteers. It's staff that's there. It's probably 100 vendors that each have 20 to 30 people that are there. It's a 3-month-long process to put all that together, and it's making sure that you don't, in the midst of ordering tents and carpet and chairs and food and bathrooms and buses and gravel and signage and all of those things that need to get ordered, approved, budgeted for, and so forth, that you also don't forget a caddy. The caddy vests have to be there, and the hole flags have to be there, and you can get kind of caught up in the bigness of it and forget some of those level of details, and just the sheer number of people that have to be involved, and the coordination and the commitment and the true kind of business that it is, I think, is what people don't understand.
It's mind-boggling. It's staggering.
Yeah.
Even at just day-to-day golf facilities, on our punch list, we had a pre-tournament punch list, action steps for while the tournament was going on,
right,
and then the post wrap-up. That was four pretty long legal-sized pages. Now, blow that up, 100 times or 1,000 times, and the details. And I think what's really intriguing to me is the amount of communication that has to take place between volunteers and committee chairs and the players and the caddies and the weather. It's just, the communication is staggering.
Absolutely.
And all the details. So,
yeah.
And for 23 years, I mean, you have been hitting it in the sweet spot, and it's really been fun to watch.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's definitely a labor of love for us. We have a lot of really good people that are involved in it, and we couldn't do it without all of them.
Having a front row seat to all those tournaments, and by the way, you also were challenged or given the challenge to navigate different venues, different sponsors. I think GTE was a long-standing sponsor, then EDS I think was second. But you navigated different zip codes and different moves. And who did you lean on in navigating all those things? Because it couldn't have been easy. And none of it I'm saying in a critical manner at any of the properties or any of the sponsors. It's a fact. You navigated a lot of moving parts when the tournament moved. Who did you lean on during those times?
Yeah. Short answer is the Salesmanship Club.
Yes.
And our team. Kind of the longer answer is, you're right. You know, it feels kind of easy. You pick up and you move somewhere else, but you realize the relationships that you already have in place at golf courses, in cities, with volunteers. Quite frankly, the fans. You know, the fans kind of have their own. You know, you've been at a place 35 years. The fans kind of have their hacks. They know where they're going. They know which person's yard they're going to park in. They've changed their mind and they want to do this. They know what holes they're going to watch. So all of that. But where we leaned really heavily is on the Salesmanship Club and the relationships and the title sponsor. You know, we're doing these for certain reasons. So it's those introductions into the people that we need to meet at the city, at the fire department, at the police department, those sorts of things. When we moved to TPC Craig Ranch, they couldn't have been better kind of group to move to, because they had formed a host committee of kind of all of those key players. Our first meeting, I'll never forget, when we were debating where we were going to go next, and we met with the folks out at TPC Craig Ranch. We were going into a meeting that we thought was kind of, let's see if there's anything there. And we left going, this is going to be our next home, because they had already done all the work. They had corporate executives there. They had the mayor there. They had state officials there. They had the golf course people there. They were committed. They knew that they wanted us to be there. They were, Mr. Weiskopf was involved. It was really impressive.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I remember witnessing when I was at Fairway Oaks in Abilene. We had a tour event in Leggett. Our tournament director, Steve Threlkeld. We were out on the golf course with one of the owners, Hal McLaughlin, and actually one of our tournament chair individuals, General Penn Dyer, who was the base commander at Dyess Air Force Base. Well, Steve, somebody comes out and gives him a message from the tournament office that the 18-wheelers that were bringing the aluminum stands for the golf course, almost all have been wiped out in a bad accident. General Dyer had his radio on his belt, and he radioed Dyess Air Force Base and told him to start getting the stands ready they use for parades and graduations and receptions.
Right.
And he trucked them out there. I thought that was pretty wild.
It sometimes takes that. We had similar. We had barges of furniture, of all things, that were stuck in port this year.
Oh, wow.
You remember all of the
Yes.
the shipping complaints.
Yeah.
And it was that we had a Salesmanship Club member who happened to have somebody that could kind of help us get to the right person to try to get those barges released.
Love that.
Yeah.
Share with us, our listeners, some of the players that you eventually got to know. You didn't know them before, and they turned out being individuals that you'd love to have a 3-hour dinner with. Share some of the, not so much about their game,
Right.
but people that you became friends with and you really enjoyed or energized being around them.
Yeah, it's funny because when I'm with the players, I think people think that I might have a better relationship with them than I do. And I say that with have a ton of respect for what they do, but I'm with them for a week when they're at the Byron Nelson. I might see them at other tournaments as we get ready, and I'm working, and we have a committee that's taking care of them. So they're really with them more than they, if if you ask a player that plays our tournament, hey, who do you know at the Byron Nelson, I'm probably down the list of who they're going to talk about. They're going to talk
surprising.
about salesmanship club guys or so forth, or I'm making a ruling with them at another tournament, and the interactions like that. But I will tell you that our local players are second to none. I would love to sit down with Jordan Spieth or Scotty Scheffler or Will Zalatoris and have a beer and just kind of talk shop. They've always been extremely generous and extremely supportive of everything that we do. Jason Day comes to mind. He was one of the ones. He won the 2010 PGA Championship where I was. He won his first event here at the 2010. Byron Nelson, Adam Scott, Ernie Els. I would love to sit down with all of them.
Jason Day at that time was playing at Mira Vista, and we were having a conversation on the putting green, and he walked off and he came back. He had just really started practicing there some. And he said, Courtney, do me a favor. He goes, please tell all your members that I'm approachable, that I love talking golf. He goes, sometimes people don't come across as approachable. I'm kind of quiet, but I love talking golf.
Right.
And then he agreed to do the ESPN Dallas show with me and gave me a cell number. I called him after the first round. And it sounded kind of noisy in the background. I said, Jason, I can call you back. It sounds like you're in a restaurant. He goes, well, I am. I go, well, let me call you. He goes, no. I said, well, I'm just curious, where are you? He goes, well, I'm at the Olive Garden on 183. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, do you realize that was date night for Byron and Peggy at the Olive Garden?
Yeah.
And he goes on to win.
Oh, my gosh.
So when I hear his name, I'm sorry, I can't help but not bring that up.
That's great. That's a great story.
What is the craziest thing that's ever happened at the tournament that nobody ever knew about? Like a crazy phone call or something that you dealt with that nobody really ever picked up on it?
Wow, there's 2 to 3 a year probably, if you want to know the truth. And I would probably say our craziest year in recent memory was, and it's not that recent, was 2015 when, I don't know if you remember the rains that we had.
Oh, yes.
In North Texas that year.
Record
Stephen
rainfalls.
Bowditch was the one that won that year.
Yeah.
Record rainfall. We ended up having to shorten the 14th hole at TPC, Four Seasons at the time, and Nelson Golf and Sports Club now. We ended up having to shorten that from a par 4 to a par 3 because of the amount of water. And one morning we woke up and it had flooded, and there were fish in the bunker and all of these sorts of things. And a lot of people know those stories, and hail damage to putting greens, and we've had carts go into water hazards, all those sorts of things. But the one that I remember all the time was that year in 2015. We had finally felt like we were over the hump. It had rained for probably 3 weeks straight. We had dealt with it forever, but Sunday was perfect. I mean, it was like Byron said, I want this on television to look good. And it was 75 degrees. It was sunny. It was starting to dry up. And we were finally getting going, and you could take that deep breath. And the phone rang, and it was from the Army Corps of Engineers, which I never thought I would get a phone call from. And they said, hey, I know that the weather looks really good there right now, and I know that you think you're finally through it, but at some point, that creek that goes through TPC Four Seasons at the time, it's going to start flowing the opposite direction because of what they were having to do upstream for all of their flooding. And sure enough, I think the final group went through there whatever time it was, and by the time they were on hole 15, that 14th hole was completely underwater. So wouldn't have been able to finish, wouldn't have been able to play. So probably it's little things like that just nobody has any idea to know. That same year we were talking about, media were approaching us about, are you going to be able to finish? What's going on? How are we handling the rain? And you're trying to coach the tournament chair, who at the time is going to give those media remarks, and you want to tell them, you want to give those answers, but you also want to be really careful because we're worried about running a golf tournament right now, and there are people losing their homes, and there are people who are suffering really bad from this storm. So so it's those kind of little things that you don't really think about that much.
Exactly. So you talk about Mr. Nelson hey, it's Sunday. I want it.
Yes.
It's going to happen. I want it to look nice. On the Sunday, the player has his recognition. He's carrying the trophy. Okay. It's all done. and it's Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, what's one of the first things that runs through your mind after that tournament has wrapped up?
Yeah, it's always a sigh of relief.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a kind of a sense of pride. It's one of the coolest moments, to be honest, between the trophy presentation and the end of that day, because we have a tradition. We try to acknowledge when the first tee is hit on Thursday, when the first tee shot of the tournament, because we'd worked all year long to get to that point. And so, it's hugs and high fives and handshakes and so forth. We're underway. And it's the same thing when we give out the trophy. I try to see as many staff as I can, just try to thank them. I watch the salesmanship club members as they start kind of rolling back to their tent, and we usually go in and we'll do some sort of toast with our title sponsor, CJ. And then we'll visit with the champion as we're asking him to sign 100 things probably.
Yes.
And then after we get through that, it's definitely a toast with the staff. We do every single year. And then since CJ's come on, we also have a bit of a tradition of meeting out on 18 fairway as the sun's going down and having a toast with them as well.
That's so special.
And that's really what we enjoy.
That is fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. One more maybe tidbit about a Sunday round just popped in my head. I remember a story by Charlie Reimer, shot 62 in Saturday's round to move him into the very final pairing for Sunday's round. And he shares a story. He's nervous, and he's walking up to the first tee, and Mr. Nelson's there. And he says, "Charlie, what a great round you played yesterday. You shot 62 to get into the final pairing. I've never shot 62 to get in the final pairing." He goes, "I shot 61 a couple of times, shot 63. I've never shot 62. And Charlie just melted. He's like, what do you say?
Right. Sounds like Byron trying to give credit to someone else.
Yeah. With your proximity to the players and the tournaments, could you share with us a player that you really love their golf swing, one of your favorite golfers to watch, or that you think their swing is just phenomenal? There's so many. The world's
so many.
Greatest players out there.
I know when I first started, just dating me a little bit, I didn't understand how Steve Elkington didn't win every single week he played. Yeah. Present day, I don't know how Ludwig Aberg doesn't win every single day that he plays. I could literally sit on a range and watch him hit balls and be mesmerized by it. But what I love about it, to be honest, is what I love about our sport. I love about professional golf and golf in general is that every single golf course is different. It takes a different type of play to win each week. We're not the NFL where the field's the same size and the same dimensions and all of that every single week. It's different, and the goal is just simply to start here and get the ball in the hole there. And the fact that all these players can do it in so many different ways, that's what I really like about it more than anything, is seeing the creativity of the way that Lee Trevino figured out his swing and the way that Scotty has managed to figure out exactly what works best for him, and everything in between. That's really what I think what hits me the most.
Some of my friends asked me about Scotty, they said, "Courtney, what do you think it's going to take to beat Scotty?" And I said, well, these players are extraordinary. They try diligently to get every advantage they can, whether it's equipment, nutrition, working out, stretching, coaches, teachers. I said, I kind of like the crowd that Scotty Scheffler runs in. Maybe you might want to get a Bible study group or something. That's another advantage. And I say that not to offend anybody, or I say it out of I enjoy individuals who have some sort of anchor they hold on to.
Absolutely.
And to me, it's inspiring. And, I like that.
I agree. It's also what Byron.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It's also very Byron.
That guy on and off the fairway.
Yeah.
In fact, I was fortunate to visit with Randy. In fact, Randy Smith was on the podcast recently, and I said, Randy, I know I'm not the first person to coin this statement, but Scotty reminds me of a young Byron Nelson, and he said, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Jordan for that matter as well.
Sure.
I know that golf has taught you so many things through experience, but share with us one of the favorite things that you've learned about the game of golf or the business and people you've been around. What are some things that you reflect on a couple of times a year?
Yeah. I will admit I never thought golf could be a vehicle for me to make a living. And when I think about the fact now, 35 years later, that I have raised two beautiful girls and I've created a family and we've got this great environment at our offices and so forth, and I get to go to work every single day doing what I do, and it's different every single day, and I get to stay in this sport that is so important to me, and we're not, and not that there's anything wrong with it, but we're not raising money for this massive billionaire corporation, where at the end of the day I can walk down the hall and see the kids in our school that we're supporting and see kind of where it goes. If you're having a bad day, you can just kind of think about what you're doing it for. To me, that's just kind of golf in a nutshell. That's, yes, it's competitive, yes, it's a sport, but it's also a pretty good reflection on life. We talk, we're in the mental health business at Salesmanship Club, and when you think about what you do when we want to get away from work, what do? You want to go to the golf course, you want to get outside, you want to do that, and for us to be able to do that every single day is a real blessing.
I heard that a lot, especially during COVID.
Absolutely.
I loved interviewing new members, a lot of young members, and say, how'd you get into golf? And it was COVID. It was a way for them to get out.
Yep.
And be out in the fresh air and enjoy. And I've gotten so many predictions wrong, thousands upon thousands of predictions
Most
wrong
for me.
And so after our first year of COVID, our management team sat down and said, can we sustain this? I mean, we were closed, but yet ended up doing record business. And I said, I do believe we can sustain it, because one of the things that I love about the game, it is a healthy addiction. And once people stick their toe in the water, they rarely let go. They just keep building and building and growing, and it's a journey. It's an evolution of learning, and that's another thing I really like about it. It's very special.
Yeah, I agree. I still love the game. I'm not very good at it anymore, but I love, more importantly, spending time with my friends and being out there. I don't really care where we are, that sort of thing.
Do you ever have any favorite golf destinations that you try to get to periodically with friends?
Yeah, golf's taken me to a lot of really special places in the work that I've done, both at the CJ Cup and with the PGA of America Rules Committee. But I'm just as happy. This is I think our 26th year. We're going on our little boys golf trip coming up here in a couple of weeks, and it's in Kansas this year, and we're playing a couple of munis, and quite frankly, I just enjoy that as much as I do any others. But I do love kind of the golf trip. Pinehurst is one of my favorite places to go for sure, and I've been fortunate to go to Bandon Dunes and a couple of those others. But yeah, anytime you get to experience something new, a new golf course, it's always fun.
My son Dylan plays, and when we're able to get together, I always ask him, where do you want to go play? And he loved playing the public golf courses. Yeah. And I asked him one day, I said, hey, I'm enjoying this. I love going out to Grapevine and different places. But I said, well, why are you so adamant about the public golf courses? He goes, well, no disrespect to your journey. I love the places you've worked. They're beautiful. They're pristine. He goes, I like just the regular everyday round of golf. Right. And I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. Absolutely.
I love the mix of a little bit of both.
I never like to talk about retirement. I don't like the word. I respect people who can retire. I respect people that shut her down and go have fun. As you someday, and I hope it's a long way from now, head out, what do you want people to think about you and your golf journey?
I would say I hope people think that I went about it the right way. To be honest, I hope people don't think about me and my golf journey.
That doesn't surprise me.
To be very honest, I hope that people view the Byron Nelson golf tournament. I hope that it's better than when I got there. I hope that it is perpetuated. I hope it's kind of survived all the craziness that's going on with the PGA Tour right now, and it's still doing everything that it's supposed to be doing. And Mr. Nelson, they're thinking about him, and they're remembering his legacy. But hopefully, for me, they'll just think about the fact that we did it the right way and we did it as a team, and he had a lot of fun doing it.
It's been very impressive seeing the surge of golf and the youth embracing the game. And I loved it when we had the Tiger Woods era that golf became front page news.
Right.
And the people that have come behind Tiger have kept that going. And I love that part of it. But what are your thoughts about the youth movement, not only just in the amateurs, but really some impressive play from some of the new guys on tour?
Oh my gosh, I tell you, they're getting younger, faster, stronger, better. I mean, you just see what Jackson Coyvan just did. Yeah. And I think it's definitely similar to what's going on in every sport.
Yes.
They're just becoming more athletic. They're figuring it out more. They're training. They're specializing. They're doing all the things that you have to do to just be really, really good earlier. And I think some of the players that have been around longer are learning that it's harder to keep up. They've got to double down with what they were doing just to kind of stay where they are. And I think it's something, what I really like is I think it's something that Mr. Nelson saw coming and something that he really liked in the game. I will tell you, one of the cool honors that I had was when I first started those first 3 years, when we were going to give someone a sponsor's exemption. The way that went is we had a committee, we all talked about it, we came up with this list, and then at the end of the day we had to go finalize it with Mr. Nelson. He had to bless the list. I wish I still had him there to give
That's
some advice.
awesome.
Yeah, it was great. But he always said, if you're kind of debating between someone that's been playing for a long time and the younger player, give it to the younger player. Quite frankly, the player that's been around, he's had his chance. As he would say, the competitive Mr. Nelson, he could just play better.
Right.
And quite frankly, that was one of the things that we did when we were thinking about, and we used as our guide when we first gave, Tiger an exemption, Sergio an exemption, Jordan Spieth an exemption at 16, Scotty. So we've always tried to perpetuate that, and it's clear that is something that is really perpetuated in this game right now.
Speaking of Tiger, I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, he won his first Masters.
Yep.
And then he took, I think, 3 or 4 weeks off. But my understanding is he was intentional at his first tournament after the Masters was Mr. Nelson's tournament because of how Mr. Nelson treated him. Eddie Merrins introduced Byron to Tiger, I think when he was 13 or 14. Byron was at Bel Air Country Club helping Eddie do a fundraiser for UCLA. And when it was all said and done, he said, I want you to meet a young golfer that's really going to be phenomenal. And he did. And Eddie told me that story. And then how he treated him at Riviera when he played at Riviera as an amateur, a high school player. He bumped into Mr. Nelson. In fact, Tiger talked about it on one of the broadcasts of one of the tournaments there at Riviera. I thought that was so cool because obviously Mr. Nelson did embrace the young golfers and the junior golfers, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, for sure. And you're absolutely right. That was his first event after the Masters. It was a turning point, like it was for every event, but it just showed the effect that Mr. Nelson had.
And I'm going to throw out a sentence to you with a blank. I want you to fill in the blank.
Okay.
Golf has given me blank.
Golf has given me direction. It has given me livelihood. It has given me opportunity. It has given me joy. It has given me friendships. It has given me really everything in my life, to be honest. It's given me, time with my father that I might not have had. It's given me time with friends. It's given me relationships, and it's given me everything.
Jon, this has been my new favorite word, remarkable.
Great.
And I really appreciate it. I appreciate what you do for the game of golf. We talk a lot about North Texas, but your influence, your motivation extends way beyond North Texas. I'm grateful for that. Yes. And just want to wish you continued success, and thank you for what you do for the game, even volunteering and serving as a North Texas Board of Director at large.
You bet.
So you're not boring.
Well,
you've got a few things going on, and I like that. There's not any moss growing on you.
No, not at all.
Thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on Fairways and Friends. Jon Drago. We've got more great guests coming down, so stay tuned and hope to see you in the fairway real soon.